So what's going on, millionaires? You're listening to the Million Dollar Mind Podcast, episode 164 on investing in real estate while working your W-2. Now, I'm super excited about this conversation. We have Hannah McCoy in the building, the guest of the hour, also known as the Scrappy Investor, which we're going to talk about in a little bit. But Hannah is a real estate investor and the RN, and also I want to make sure I'm getting this right, U.S. Air Force Second Lieutenant. Right, Hannah?
Yes. Yeah, that's correct.
Awesome. And well, thank you so much for your service and everything that you've been doing. You definitely have a lot on your plate. So I'm super excited to have this conversation to see how you make time for it all. Hannah's also a fitness junkie, preparing to compete in her first bodybuilding competition too. So that's exciting. And just to kind of start off, Hannah, tell us what got you into the fitness journey of becoming, starting your first bodybuilding competition, and then also how you came up with the name, the Scrappy Investor, that has such a personality to it. I would love to hear that story.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess I've always been interested in like entrepreneurship, and fitness has always been a part of my life as well. Last year, well, every year I try and set like a goal for myself, something that I want to try and do, something new. Last year I ran a marathon and I was like, yeah, I don't want to do that again. So I was like, this year I'm going to try bodybuilding. I've always been interested in that style of workout. So I just kind of wanted to take it to the next level and see where I could go with that. The investing side of things, the Scrappy Investor name, honestly, I just kind of came up with it. I was like, I'm always trying to save money. Like, I would say I'm pretty scrappy when it comes to like home improvement kind of stuff. I'm always trying to like cut corners where I can, but still make it, look decent and be, nice places to live. So I just was like, scrappy.
Yeah. When I hear
Yeah.
it, it sounds like you don't mind getting your hands dirty either, and you like to be very much hands-on. And I see a lot of your reels.
Yeah.
I relate to the reels. I love the creativity that you bring to it, and it's refreshing just to kind of see you doing all these things and still making time to create content and invest at the same time. Because I as an investor myself, I know running numbers and looking for properties that fit your portfolio, like that can be exhausting, let alone having a W-2 and several other things that you're doing on the side as well. So I guess we can start off right there. Like, how do you find the time for it all? Like, do you have a routine for yourself? Like, how do you keep yourself from pulling your hair out while doing all these things?
I guess I'm a very like routine person. So I like every morning, I get up, I have the same routine every morning. So whether I work or I'm off, I get up, I drink a cup of coffee, sit on the couch and just kind of like relax. I always try, an hour every day. And then from there, I just kind of, go about my day. So as an RN, I work 12-hour shifts. So it's only 3 days a week. So that leaves me 4 days, the rest of the week to kind of explore and get into some other stuff. And that's kind of how I got into like the whole real estate, especially like the social media real estate world. I would say is from just having those extra 4 days to kind of like be creative and just be goofy on like the reels. I never would have seen myself doing something like that, but I was like, I think it's the best way to engage with other people. And it lets other people see like, hey, investing really isn't that scary. It's not like old and dry and just, like dusty books. It's not like that anymore, so it's kind of nice to be able to reach people in that way, I think.
Yeah, no, it's definitely refreshing. And
Yeah.
for those who aren't already following Hannah, I'm sure you're going to get, where to find her by the time we finish up this interview. But like everything that she's saying, like her reels really just kind of bring out like the fun, the energetic side of real estate investing, and it just kind of introduces people to who don't see themselves in that space, to kind of more so see themselves in that space, which is again refreshing. Like I know for a lot of people that come to me, is like most people have this mindset of, to become a real estate investor, you have to either have the education going through, being a realtor first or some type of agent, or having a ton of money to dispose
Mm-hmm.
on, purchasing these properties cash. And, that couldn't be further from the truth. So like, what has been like
Right.
your experience is kind of like how you first were able to tap into real estate investing?
Rolling. All right, what's up, millionaire? So I know I shared this once, maybe even twice, but here's the third time. So I'm really starting to lose faith in business cards. And the reason why is because every time I get about 500 business cards, I use about 100, 150, and my business has changed. Whether the website has changed or just things are just changing, especially when you're a new entrepreneur. I've been in entrepreneurship just under 5 years. So, things are still changing. You're optimizing, you're getting new websites, getting new Instagram accounts, and your business card really expires. So what I learned and what I love now is Popple, right? I have a Popple card right here in my pocket. And what I love about it is it's a physical card that I can put my logo on. Even has a QR code that I can scan or hold up to somebody's phone. And they have a virtual business card where I can update my information as much as I need to. I can share as much information as I want to from my phone number, social media pages, the whole nine. And I can also disable sharing that information if I want to as well. I definitely want you guys to consider Popple because as your business is changing, why spend so much money on these paper business cards when most of the times people throw them away and it's expired because you changed your business? So there's also going to be a link at the bottom of this video for you to download Popple, get your business card, or if I hold it up close enough, you might be able to scan that QR code.
So for me, the easiest way was through house hacking, which a lot of
Mhm.
people, it was a foreign concept to me, 2 years ago. And it was the easiest way that I saw how to get involved. I just didn't know that that's what it was called. So it's basically just buying your first house, like your primary residence, and buying a duplex or a house that you can rent out rooms in. Something that, you know, you can you can make some money while you're also putting down a low down payment on a house, for your first primary residence. Because a lot of times, for me, it was a little different. I kind of messed up with the bank, but a lot of times you can get an FHA loan, like a first time homeowners loan, which is, 0% to like 5% down. So could be very, very little, depending on where you're at, what kind of properties you're looking for. So really, it doesn't take a lot of money to get started. And,
Mhm.
that's a big misconception I think that a lot of people have when it comes to real estate.
Yeah, yeah, and especially, I love that you started off doing house hacking, and
Yeah.
I think that is a route or a concept that really puts it into perspective and brings the distance a lot closer to the average, working person, to kind of
Right.
house hack because they can, have these goals of buying a home to live in and finding
Right.
creative ways to, to turn some cash flow into it as well. So for
Yeah.
those and before we get into it too, because we have some new millionaires that'll be listening to this, and to our millionaires who are tuning in with us again, and our
Yeah.
veterans, I gotta introduce and let you know, welcome back to the Million Dollar Mind Podcast. How rude of me, right? This is the
Yeah.
most trusted podcast for passion attraction. So you are in the right place if you are here looking for money making tips and tricks to living a more passionate life. And
Yeah.
of course, we're going to talk about, Hannah, the fact that you have been able to tap into real estate and the other things that you're doing. How has real estate helped you, be able to spend more time on doing more passionate work and doing things that you enjoy and spending your time with the people you enjoy spending your time with?
So for me, real estate, it's provided another stream of income. I feel
Mhm.
like I was just reading about it, today, that most millionaires have at least 7 streams of income, right? So for me, real estate was just another source of income that it's like, hey, if I lose my W-2 job, if I'm in between jobs, like it's not as big of a deal because I have this other source of income coming in, and even when I am working my W-2, that's still additional income.
Mhm.
So for me, it's been helpful. So right now I'm doing travel nursing, and in between
Mhm.
my contracts, I'm not really worried. I'm kind of like, I still have income coming in. It's not as much as I want it to be in the future, but for me, it's provided me extra time. I'm not worried about picking up extra shifts. I'm not worried about spending a bunch of time away from my family and my friends like I was kind of stressed out about before, just to make ends meet. Because I know I have that extra money coming in and that
Mhm.
security.
Yeah, absolutely. It definitely brings a level of security knowing that you have that money coming in on a consistent basis. And
Yeah.
like, so of course, with the streams of income, what about real estate stuck out to you as that being the stream that you wanted to focus on? Like, why not stocks or crypto as a side hustle?
Mhm. So for me, real estate was just the most tangible. It was something that I could understand just starting off. I just graduated college. I wasn't that financially savvy by any means. And I was like, hey, but I understand appreciation. I understand how, looking at the housing market. And I started investing in 2020. I was like, wow, that house sold for, $90,000 10 years ago. Now it's 250.
Mm,
Like that's something that even I could understand being pretty financially illiterate. I was like, wow, like that's pretty significant. And I just started getting into some different materials like bigger pockets. I started watching YouTube videos of people in real estate. For me, it just seems like the most yeah, tangible, the easiest thing for me to understand at the time, for sure.
yeah. Yeah, and I love that you use the word tangible too, because
Yeah,
again, like it is something physical. Like of course,
yeah,
when like investing in stocks or crypto, like it's not something that you hold, it's not something that you live in, and
yeah,
being the fact that all of us are either living in a home renting it, or we are paying a mortgage, or we own the home. Like
yeah,
if you pay close enough attention, you can understand real estate. You can just look and
right,
see that your neighbor has lived in their property for like 10 years, and then all of a sudden they sold it, and it's like what they sold it for compared to where you bought your home for. It's like if you just pay enough
yeah,
attention, you can get a very basic understanding even without diving into the books. And again, like you said, like it's just with social media and even YouTube University, it's even more resources
yeah,
out there for people to get even more of a better understanding on it as well.
right.
So just kind of on, because you mentioned not having really the greatest or the most dynamic financial understanding, or coming from like a financially literate background. What have been your experiences that kind of molded you into this scrappy investor, this person that's joining us today?
So I think like growing up, my family, they're very good with money. My parents are, but they're more of the
Mhm,
mentality like save and pay off everything and then just be debt free. That was
mhm,
always their mentality. So that's just kind of what I thought growing up, like, oh, that's what I'm going to do too. I'm going to work and, retire at 65. And like, that's just my life. Like, that's the only option there is. But I think being presented with like, oh, hey, you could have more time to yourself to pursue your passions. And I think for me, realizing that like nursing is not something I want to do forever was also like, okay, well, I gotta find something else to do. I gotta be a little scrappy. Gotta start looking at some different opportunities just to be able to pursue fitness. Like that's a huge passion of mine. Being able to be free to do that and not be worried about work all the time. That's definitely something that attracted me to it.
yeah, yeah. And how has like, I do want to touch on that mindset and that mental shift in that piece as well, because how has just you being able to create these extra streams of income and not having to put yourself in a position where you have to pick up more shifts, being able to now
Hmm.
put more focus on your physical fitness and your physical health as well, like how have you noticed your mindset changing, or just you being in a more positive, self-loving environment, now that you're able to create these opportunities for yourself?
Yeah, I think it's really just helped me break out of feeling trapped. I think I just felt very trapped and like, oh, I just went to school, I graduated, like I'm a nurse now, I'm in the Air Force, but I'm like, I still feel like I'm kind of a slave to these careers, and
Mhm,
if I give these up, like who am I? What do I have? Like I don't have anything,
mhm,
so it was just like I want to be able to pursue something that gives me the opportunity to actually pursue who I am. And I feel like especially within the last like year, it's really been, oh, like I can actually pursue the things that I care about and I'm interested in, and the things that I would like to make a difference and like provide education to people who maybe think that they're stuck too, or they feel trapped, or like, oh, like these millionaires, people they're making all this money, like they're not relatable, they don't understand what it's like, but I want to provide that for other people, and that's made me feel more fulfilled, I guess, as well.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you brought that up too, because that's literally why I even created the platform, and
Yeah,
a lot of our listeners who tap in with us, have that same feeling of feeling trapped or feeling a slave to their work environment, and
yeah,
for you, of course, having working a W-2 and investing part-time and you know doing all these things, dibbling dabbling in so many other things while working. How were you, because it's nothing wrong with a job if the job is providing you
no,
with the resources, the environment that is going to allow you to also focus on what you love, for your case, real estate.
absolutely.
So
Yeah,
how are
yeah.
you able to take the positives of being in this work environment and leveraging the leveraging that time, leveraging that environment, the space, those people, to still use it towards what your long-term goals are?
I think that the way that I've found is that there's a lot of people that feel the same way I do. And there's a lot of
Hmm.
negativity in like healthcare right now. And it's been helpful to kind of like encourage other people, other nurses I know, the military. I feel a little differently about the military just because it's like I'm in the reserves. And I've been in the reserves for 5.5 years now. It's a lot more of like a brotherhood. I don't know how to describe it. It's like a lot
Yeah.
like closer knit kind of people, so that's like a little bit easier. A lot of people in the military, I feel like, are very like they have a like a business mindset. They're looking for other streams of income, other ways to improve themselves, because that's something that's like very important. In the military, like you got to always be learning, always be growing. But as far as healthcare, it's helped me relate to the other people that I work with, just because I see myself in them and see that like trapped feeling or maybe unhappy, and I can kind of provide like, hey, that's not the only option. Like you don't have to work all these overtime shifts. There are other ways that you can, get out of that. So that's been
Hmm.
helpful.
What do you say? What do you think would be some advice for someone who is, maybe in healthcare or not in healthcare, but just in
Yeah.
general, feeling trapped in their W-2, and just um not really knowing how to shift that mindset in a more positive light to still focus on more passionate, fulfilling things? What would be some advice that you would give them?
I think just like for me, it's just managing like my mindset and really focusing on like every day what's important to me, what do I want to accomplish today, and really just taking it day by day. So the days that you're off, what are you doing? What are you spending your time doing?
Mm,
Are you watching Netflix, or are you educating yourself? What do you truly want to do? I think that that's just something I would really encourage people, because that's what, like, whenever I wanted to get out of it, that's all I spent my time doing, was just researching and learning and consuming that sort of content to kind of reshape my focus.
mm. That's a great point, and it's
Yeah.
so easy to fall into that trance of like, oh, I had a
Yeah.
long day of work, or I had an annoying
Yeah.
day at
Yeah.
work, so let me just binge watch Netflix.
Yeah.
And
And I've definitely been there.
I've been
I
there
definitely
too.
do that. Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a distraction. So like something that
Yeah.
worked for me is I had to set a rule that I don't watch TV during the week. So like
Okay.
when I come home during the
Oh, that's
week,
good.
it's like I just can't turn on the TV. Now weekends, I give myself the grace to like, hey, if you want to wake up and you want to go watch TV for 4 hours, that's what you want to do.
Yeah.
It's the weekend.
Yeah.
But during the week, it's like a no.
Okay.
Like what
That's
what has
good.
helped
That's good.
you? What has helped you for like shifting and like being disciplined to find that research, or do you think that it just kind of came natural to you just from having that drive and knowing what you wanted to do?
So something that I did, it was just like I drive pretty far to work, just because, like I said, I'm traveling right now. So I drive over an hour every day to work. Instead of like listening to music or like, my true crime podcast, I would listen to like an educational podcast. And that was just something that was like easy for me to switch out. When I was at the gym too, like if I was doing cardio, I would do the same thing. I would listen to an educational podcast, you know, and try and use that time that I'm already doing something else, that I can just start to educate myself. Just something really easy that I could, you know, just turn on and be like, I'm not even going to think about it. I'm not listening to music. You know, I'm not listening to true crime. I'm going to educate myself while I have this time right now.
Yeah. Yeah. I like that. I like that option as well. I'm starting to do the same. Like,
okay.
again,
Yeah.
music is probably like one thing I'll listen to like on my way home from work. But when I'm like going in, I feel like it's important, especially in the morning time, to like be very, like your mind should be sacred in the mornings. And speaking of like sacred mornings, you know, I do believe in the importance of having a morning routine. And you mentioned having a routine and starting off with, you know, coffee and, you know, being on the couch and just kind of like sitting and thinking. For you, before you get your coffee, what is the first thing you do when you wake up?
The first thing I do whenever I wake up is I just like take a few deep breaths. I just like sit on the side of my bed and I'll take like 5 or 6 deep breaths. And then from there, I just kind of like go down, let the dogs out, make my coffee. Like that's kind of the first thing that I do typically. Like I try not to check my phone. That's the biggest thing. I try not to.
That's where I was getting. I was going to ask, like, do you check your phone? How hard is it not to?
Yeah, it's hard. I used to do that because it's like I'd keep it right on the bedside table. You know, so the first thing I would do is like wake up, check my notifications. But like as long as I don't have my alarm set, like I'll turn my alarm off when I do, and then I'll just like sit on the side of the bed, take like 5 or 6 deep breaths. But the phone thing, that was a hard habit to break.
Yeah. And I did a good job breaking it at first. And then it's like now going back into like creating content, I have like all my notes in my phone. So it's like, I'm not checking it going right on social media or like checking messages. I am going in my notes, which is my excuse to feel like at least I'm being productive using it, but I don't want to necessarily tie to it.
No, that's still productive though. I mean, you're checking your notes and everything. Like it's a big thing that you've created. That's awesome. I've been following your stuff for a while too. It's really great.
Oh yeah, I appreciate it. And like I think that it's important to kind of, you know, bounce ideas off of people. So I love seeing your content. And you know, hopefully my content helps you out as well with creating more content as well. But so going back to your upbringing, because you did mention that your parents were more so like being debt free, paying off debt, saving. Do you think that you've totally adopted that same mindset, or are you a little bit more lenient towards like leveraging debt?
Oh, definitely. Yeah, I'm definitely a leveraging debt component. Like I would definitely go for that. I think that I was always taught that debt is just bad, but there's different kinds of debt is what I'm realizing. You know, so I would say like my student loan debt, bad. But like, you know, the debt that I have, my rental properties, I feel like that's a good debt. You know, that's something that is actually beneficial to me, or it's not harmful, I guess.
Right. Especially if you have like a mortgage, you know, that's like $900, but you can rent it out for $1,500. That's clearly good debt in my eyes.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it's like I think about it like that because you have so many people nowadays doing like Airbnb arbitrage where people are like literally subleasing and picking up, you know, corporate leases and things like that nature. And to me, I just feel like that, and I'm not knocking that hustle, but I think when people think of that as like the only way that they can tap into real estate, when you just think about it, hey, maybe if you just save a little bit of coins and get a mortgage, it actually ends up being a lot cheaper than going the arbitrage route. Have you had experience like doing arbitrage, tapping into that way, or did you fully just dive into, you know, ownership?
So I didn't even know what arbitrage was when I started. I have since learned about it and I've looked into it. In my area though, like kind of what you said, it just doesn't really make sense. Like because what I would be renting it for most of the time isn't much. I wouldn't be getting much more from an Airbnb, like at least in my area. Now in like a bigger area, I could see how that could be beneficial, like if property prices are just insane. But like I'm about an hour like north of Pittsburgh area, and it's pretty reasonable, you know. So I think it's a lot cheaper to pay for a mortgage instead of renting typically here.
That makes a lot of sense, and
Yeah.
that gives me another question, because you have to understand your market as well.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
so like for total rookies in the game who, you know, have
Yeah.
lived at a certain place all their life, but may not be too familiar with like how the market moves and how it performs. For you, what like the first steps of like just understanding your market to see like if a neighborhood you live in is good for rentals or good for Airbnbs or better for flips? Like what's the first step to just kind of understanding your market like that?
I think the first step would be just checking Zillow, checking realtor.com, you know, looking at all the prices of houses in your area. And then you can actually select to see recently sold houses. So you can see all the houses that were recently sold in your area too. So then you just have a ballpark of like what your property is worth, or what these properties around you are worth. And that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty subjective because, like, you know, like we said earlier, like right now the market's kind of crazy, but it gives you a good idea for like what things are selling at right now. For Airbnb, and rental prices, I would say kind of similar, you know, check on apartments.com, check on rent.com, see what places are renting for in your area. I even really like Facebook Marketplace. I look on there all the time just to see what's, you know, what people are listing their properties for. And then yeah, Airbnb, I'm always on there looking and seeing what other people have their places like per night, per week, per month. That's a really helpful tool just that you can do yourself, you know, and it takes 5 minutes. But it takes some time, you know. I would say it takes some time just to analyze and get used to your market, understand the ins and the outs of it.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
I follow those same exact, and these are all free resources too, which is most important
Right.
that people understand. Like you
Right.
can
Yeah.
go on your computer and type in any of these websites and start
Yeah.
just browsing and just having that
Yeah.
curiosity
Yeah.
of like, I want to see what this house is worth. Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so that's a great point. And for you, when you first got started, what did your support system look like? Like, who did you have in your corner to kind of really like root you on? Were you kind of doing this alone? What was that experience like?
So my boyfriend was the one that kind of originally told me about real estate investing. So he was on my side. He was always like encouraging me to go for, you know, to go for it. He was the one that was like, "You why don't you look into buying a duplex for your first house instead of like a single family?" And I was like, "Oh, like that's yeah, great idea." So I had him. He's been very supportive, and he's like he owns rentals now as well. And my family at first was a little skeptical, I think, but they came around. They're like, "Oh, like you're doing a good thing. Like that's pretty cool, you know." But at first they were kind of like, why would you do that? Like, why wouldn't you just buy your own house? You know, they didn't really understand it all fully at first, but they've come around and been pretty supportive, I think, so far. So
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And I love
yeah.
to hear when people kind of shift their mindset from like,
Yeah.
oh, first home that I buy has to be my dream home, to where
Right.
people end up waiting like like I've seen so many people waiting, and it sounds like you even read the book House Hacking as well on from
Yeah.
Bigger Pockets. So like this was even a
Yeah.
testimony that they were talking about in the book, was just like most people wait like 5, 7, 10 years saving up for their dream home, when you can just buy, you know, that same amount of time you can buy a duplex or an investment property in like 2, 3 years, and
Yeah.
use that money and to, you know, to save up even faster to get to your dream home, maybe even buy two, three
Exactly.
more in the meantime. So if
Yeah.
people can kind of shift their focus to like, I got to do things the way that everybody else does it,
Hmm.
we
Yeah.
all end up better in the long run.
Oh,
um
absolutely. Yeah, because it
so
is totally different than what most people would do. You know, like I didn't know anybody that had done it. You know, it definitely wasn't something that was like common. So it was like all my friends are kind of like, what are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. But yeah, definitely.
and when you first, so I know that you said you started off house hacking, and I'm not sure if at this time if you and your boyfriend were living with each other, but which method of house hacking did you choose? Like, were you renting it out by the room? Did you have like a duplex where you renting about side by side or top bottom? Which method did you go with?
Yeah. So I found a duplex that was actually side by side. So I rent
Okay.
out the other side of it still.
Okay, got it. Because I was going to ask, like,
Yeah.
what were the experiences like? Because, you know, we got people listening, and of course, they're trying to keep their options open. Like, what
Yeah.
are like the
Yeah.
pros and cons of like renting it out by the room? Is that something you would recommend for, you know, couples, or like, or what? Um, but with the side by side, that seems like the best situation, because top bottom, you have to worry about, you know, people living
The
above you,
noises
or
and
things
yeah.
like.
Yeah.
So that's just pretty much just like an apartment unit, to be honest.
Yeah.
Did you have any like
Yeah.
tenant issues or like bad housemates or anything like that?
No, so the tenant that when I bought the house, the tenant had been here already for 3 years, and he's still here 2.5 years later. And he's been awesome, like very respectful, nice. I feel like I'm the loud one over here, but no, no issues with him whatsoever. So it's been a great experience, honestly.
Damn, you bought a
Yeah.
property already cash flowing like that.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
That's
I
pretty
got
dope. That's
lucky.
pretty dope. And
Yeah.
so like, is that, is it like not awkward at all, like being the landlord and still like living with your tenant? Like, that did you have to get used to that at first? Like, what was the beginning of that journey?
I did, yeah, because I mean, here I am. I was 22, and like,
Hmm.
he's an older guy, like 60s, I think, and I was like, how am I supposed to tell him like rent's due, but no issues. I mean, every he gives me the check, like everyone's super nice, super respectful. I was really worried about it at first, but no, anything goes wrong, he just texts me, and I get it fixed, and it's been no issues, honestly. It's been
Awesome.
great.
That's
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. That's a blessing, especially like in this,
Yes.
like these last 2 years of dealing with like COVID and stuff like that.
Oh my
People having
gosh.
tenants
Yeah.
that can't pay, and evictions
Yeah.
being through the roof.
Yes.
Like, that's a
Yeah.
blessing.
Yeah, absolutely. I know. I'm so thankful I haven't had to do any of that. I haven't had to evict anyone yet, thankfully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. I pray that you never
Yeah.
have
Yeah.
to. So,
Yeah.
what is like from, obviously, if you have any experiences, you know, of having a significant other that is, you know, into real estate as well and shares the same goals as you, and things of these nature, like,
Yeah.
how important is it, you know, just kind of for other, you know, couples where one may be, you know, in the real estate, the other may not be? Is it important that the couple gets on the same page? Like, can it be done if one is like all in and the one is like not interested at all? Like, what are these like core values that like are like deal breakers, just kind of from your experience? Like, what are your thoughts on it?
So I don't think they're deal breakers, definitely, but it definitely does make it easier. And it's also like more exciting, I think, too. Like, I mean, we love talking about real estate, like that's one of the main things like we get excited about talking about. I think it's, yeah, definitely not a deal breaker. Like, I don't think it'd be impossible to
Hmm.
be with somebody that wasn't into it, but it would definitely make it hard just because it's such a big interest of mine now,
Hmm.
like it definitely gets to the point. But I know couples where, one's not super interested and the other is, and they make it work, and they do
Hmm.
just fine. But yeah, I think I think most people come around though eventually too. That's the other thing. I think most people, they're like, oh, like that is a good thing that you're doing. Like, oh yeah, look at all that cash flow. Like that, whatever you're doing, like maybe I'm not super into it or done it a lot, but like it makes sense.
Hmm.
So I think
Yeah,
I
they
have
got to
seen
see
that
it to
too.
believe it.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah, because I'm just thinking of like like real estate, it doesn't have to be, but in the grand scheme of things, these are big purchases, right? So
Right.
it's a lot of money that, you know, that is passing through a lot of people, like people's hands. So
Yeah.
if for me, my thought is, if like one person is not on board, is like it can create some unnecessary like conversations that need to be had over and over again surrounding
True.
money, especially like when you
Yeah.
start to get serious into like marriage and things like that. Money is
Yeah.
always like, I think the statistic is like money is like the number one cause of divorce,
Yeah.
uh quoted from Dave Ramsey. So it's like, if
Yeah.
you have someone that's not really on the same page, I can see how that being difficult. But that's not your case, so we don't have to hone in on that too much. But
No,
um
that is a good point though, for sure. Just like, yeah, finances and stuff, being on the same
mhm.
page of finances, like maybe, yeah, even if they're not like it's not what they want to do, at least if they're on board with it. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And do you ever, you know, suffer from imposter syndrome, where you might have doubted yourself and felt like hey, I might be a little bit too over my head? And if so, like, how do you constantly overcome and combat that feeling?
Yeah. Well, I had a situation last year actually where I was just like, what am I doing? Like, so I found like a seller financing deal, a duplex like off market. So I went under contract for that. And then I also went under contract at the same time, like with conventional financing, another duplex. And I was like on board to get both of them. And I was like, oh, this is great. This is amazing. Well, then my pipes broke in one of my current houses and I had to spend, $10,000 fixing that. So pretty much all the money for one of the duplexes is gone. I lost the deal and I was just like, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, that's not only a ding to my credit, but like now the bank is like, oh, she can't pay for this. It was a big bummer. And it was just kind of a point where I was like, is this really what I want to be doing? Like, people talk about all the glamorous sides of real estate investing, and there are a lot of great things, but there's also times where you're like, oh man, like like I just spent $10,000 fixing that bathroom, and then it's like, I lost the other deal. But I definitely feel that imposter syndrome sometimes. But after the dust settled, after everything was done, it's like, hey, I still have cash flow coming from that house every month. Like, all the cash flow I'd got from that paid for the repairs. So it really
Mhm.
wasn't an issue. Like, looking at it from a bigger picture, I was like, it seemed like a big catastrophe at the time, but now I'm under contract for another house, like it just took a few months later. It's not a big deal. You can recover from it. So
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, you definitely can recover from it. And it sounds like what makes it easier for you is just kind of keeping the end in mind, like why you started this in the
Yeah.
first place. So, like, if you don't mind sharing, like, what is your why? Like,
Yeah.
I know we said why real estate, why the vehicle, but what is your why in general?
My why in general is that I want to, like I said before, I want to spend more time doing the things that I really care about. I want to spend more time with my family. I don't want to be gone from work all the time. And especially in the future, if I have kids, or even if I have, nieces and nephews, like I want to be able to invest in their lives. I even have a younger sister, like who's 10. Like I'd love to spend more time with her, just again, spending more time with the people I care about. And then also spending more time educating other people. I think that's been something that I've really realized that I love to do. And I enjoy being a part of a community that's so helpful to
Hmm.
people. And it was so helpful to me, 2 years ago when I first started. So I think that's kind of my why, is like helping people see that they're not trapped, is something that I really want to focus on in the future. So I'd say those are the two main things right now.
Hmm. I love the word that you use, community, and I would even pair that
Yeah.
word with the word you were trying to find for your expression of being in the military too. Like, it provides that community.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. That's a
and
good.
and how would you, just kind of being a part of different communities that just kind of satisfy you in different ways, whether it's the mindset, helping you with the real estate and just understanding these things, how important do you think that it is for everyone to find a community that they can belong to? And what are some tips for identifying which community may be best for you, instead of, because I don't believe in doing things alone. I think we need to
Yeah.
shake that, like,
Yeah.
oh, I got to be the superhero and know everything and do everything,
Yeah.
rely
Like
on
the
the
lone
village.
wolf. Yeah. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what are some tips for identifying the right community for you?
I think like if you don't have a community that supports what you're wanting to do, then there are so many ways that you can find one. And I think like social media is a great way to find that. Like for me specifically with my interest in real estate, I found a group of women who also love real estate. It's like the Women Investing in Real Estate, the Wire group.
Hmm.
And I actually was able to go on a retreat with them in February. And it was awesome to be able to see them. And we're all from different parts of the country, but we got to meet and connect for a whole weekend and talk about, stuff that we cared about, investing, real estate. So I think social media provides a great way to find community in something that you're interested in. And that could be anything, that could be stocks, crypto. Like I know that there's communities for all those things as well. But I do think it's so important to have community. Same with fitness too. You always post like videos at your gym, and I think that's so cool. Like just having like your gym community too. Like that's another thing I think is important. Like having community in your fitness. Like, my coach, actually has like a group call every month with all the girls in our that she coaches. And I think that's
Hmm.
so important too, like just to see everybody's journey. And I think it's super important, super important.
Yeah, yeah, and I think just kind of to add on to your point, it's probably just as important to have like you don't have to belong to just one community. Like having several
Yeah, yeah,
communities that satisfy different needs. Like if you have a hard time staying true to your routine, like find a community of people who are like really doing well and holding each other accountable in routines, aka the 5
yeah.
a.m. club. And that's a little shameless plug for the millionaires. I've been like plugging in this 5 a.m. club for a
That's
while
awesome.
now. So millionaires, if you listen in, the
No,
5
that's
a.m.
awesome.
club is holding you accountable for routine. So text 5 a.m. to the number that I'm always going to let you know. But yeah, just back to the point, Hannah, it's like just different communities for different strokes for different folks. And
Yeah,
I wanted to ask you about that, that because I saw you just came back in February from that retreat. How did
yeah.
you find that? How did you find that community of women in real estate? You know, where do you see that mastermind, if you want to call it that? Where do you see that going in the future?
So I found them all on Instagram actually. The main women that started it, Amelia and Grace, I met them both through Instagram. And then yeah, they're just creating an awesome community for women. So if anybody's interested, yeah, it's the Wire, I think they call it on. They have a page for it now, like that's just specifically, but they provide a lot of education specifically for women who are interested in real estate, and they host like boot camps and things like that for you to get involved. But I think something that you said too is really important, and that's like holding each other accountable, because that's something that's like very hard to do by yourself. Even if you're a super disciplined individual, I think it helps so much to have other people to hold you accountable.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. Especially like when you are going through that phase where you want to give up and you feel like mentally drained, mentally defeated. Like
Yeah,
don't not share that. I think that we like to hold
yeah,
these emotions and these feelings back, but that's the whole point of you joining a community in the first place. Is like share even your weakest moments, because you might just need those people to like say or speak to you in a way that's like, oh, maybe I'm overreacting, or oh, they felt
yeah.
like this too. So that's super important. Have you like have you gotten some advice that really like changed your like what's some advice that you've gotten from the Wire group that kind of really like opened your eyes or like totally changed your perspective on things that you were doing and might have changed how you're going to do it in the future?
One of the main takeaways that I had, and something that somebody said to me, was like, focus on delayed gratification. That's something that's super, super important when it comes to investing, when it comes to life in general. And that's something that I just keep like replaying in my head, like delayed gratification. Have I loved living in a duplex all the time for the last 2.5 years? Like, no, of course not. There's times that I wish I could have my dream house, and I could just move out and have a mansion or whatever, but it's delayed gratification. I think that's been the main takeaway. And that's something that I try and like repeat to myself, that, one day it is going to be all worth it. I do believe that.
It's all going to be worth it in the end, and
Yeah.
for those that may be a little bit more patient, just kind of because I love that. I never heard the concept delayed gratification, but like for me, what I would think that would help, because I would even take part in delayed gratification, but I probably would like break it down into different subsets. Like,
Mm.
okay, this is what I really want. I'm doing what I'm doing. I don't have it yet, but let me find other things to find gratification in, like getting the cash flow, right?
Yeah.
Or,
Yeah.
living every single month, with your living expenses pretty much paid for. Like for me, that's
Right.
like the instant gratification that leads up to the delayed gratification, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think like there's a huge focus right now in our culture for like hustle culture and that sort
Yeah.
of thing. And I'm like, and that's not what I mean. I think it's more just like, because I do enjoy my life, I do enjoy what I'm doing. It's not like I wake up every day and I'm like, oh, like I have to live in a duplex, but it's more just like taking the little wins right now, because I know it's gonna add up bigger in the future.
hmm and just kind of to touch on that, because it is in our culture right now. This is like the trend that is going on, like sleep is for suckers, or work till you
Yeah.
like grind
Yeah.
till you die, hustle
Yeah.
harder.
Right.
Like
Right.
to a certain extent, for me, I translate it as just do what is hard so that you can live an
Yeah.
easier life in the long term, right? But some people may translate that as like, oh, I can't be happy. But it's like, you got to find peace, and you got to find that grace, like to still live an enjoyable life.
Yeah, absolutely. And you got to take time to like do what's important to you too. So it's like, there may be some things in my life that I wish were different right now, but something that like I prioritize and I love to do is I go to the gym. So it's like, that's something that I prioritize. And like, I would say like, I'm selfish about that. Like, that's my hour of the day that like I'm selfish about. And I go and I do that because I enjoy it. And I know that it enriches my life. So there's definitely some things. And even that is like delayed gratification though too. Like, I enjoy that every single day, but I also know that it's going to help me in the future. So that's just like one thing that I try and think about too.
Yeah. It's like giving yourself those small rewards, or having non-negotiables. Like, what are your non-negotiables?
Yes. Yeah.
Got it. And so what do you say for someone that is like listening to this and like, wow, this sounds super dope. I everything you guys are saying sounds amazing. I love real estate without even knowing real estate. But again, I have no idea how to get started. What do you say are like the 3 first very important steps to best jump into real estate as a side hustle?
I would say the first step would be to talk to somebody that's done it. And like, you can talk to somebody on Instagram that you find, you can talk to me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm not an expert, but yeah, find somebody that has done it and will give you a good baseline for like what you should do, like for the first step. And I think the second would be to maybe talk to a realtor in your area, because they're going to help you also look at prices. They're going to help you look at like what sort of house hack that you want to do, whether or not renting by the rooms is an option or a duplex is a better option, something like that. And then third, I would say just to save some money, set some money aside, down payments. Like, a lot of times, like I said, for your first down payment, it's not going to be a lot of money, but there are other costs involved. Like, closing costs are always way more than you think they'll be, like taxes, things like that. So just start saving your money for that initial down payment.
That's great advice. Start saving, talk to somebody. And what was the second one? I think that one flew over my head.
Like a realtor, like find a realtor in your area that's familiar with the market. Yeah.
Got it. Yeah, that's all. That's great advice. And so for Hannah, I'm not sure if you like how much volume or like how often you get deals and opportunities that you may want to add to your portfolio, but like for ones that don't work for you, like what do you do with those? Like, do you like wholesale opportunities that don't work for you? Do you kind of just like send them to somebody else and just kind of like let them decide if they want to do it? Like, how do you typically swing that?
So right now, we have not done wholesale yet. That's something that I would like to try, because there's actually a deal that like we're not going to buy, but I'm trying to decide what to do with it. So I don't even know yet. I think we're going to try wholesale, but we haven't even really got to that point yet. The ones in the past have just kind of been like, yeah, like not for me, sorry. And I'll tell a few people about it, but like never got compensated for it. So I'm like, that'd be kind of nice to like try and do some wholesale, expand a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, that's how I got started. For me, it was the opposite. Like,
That's awesome.
I haven't. For me, it was the longest time before I even actually like was able to like buy anything. It was more so just everything was wholesale.
Oh, really?
And,
really?
yeah, like
See,
literally.
That's scarier to me.
You said it's like, for me, I was like, I got comfortable. It got me comfortable of like, okay, I get to do this without the liability and taking the ownership. So for me, that was a little bit of an excuse not to like buckle down and actually buy anything. But for you, so what is like the most scariest thing about it?
I don't know. I think it's just like I'm not as comfortable with the process, because I'm just like, what if I can't find a buyer? Like, what if I can't? I don't know. And those are all just like limiting beliefs I have about it. But I've just never even tried it. So I'm like, I just don't know.
Yeah, I've definitely tried, and of course, if you have any questions, like I would definitely love to like spill the beans and help you out with the processes and things like that, because like I said, for me, that's how I started. Like, that's what opened my eyes up to real estate and introduced me to this whole thing.
That's cool.
And if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't have learned about like bigger pockets and connected with other investors and started buying these books and all that stuff. So so that's that. And
That's cool. That's
uh,
cool.
as far as like exit strategies, I know that for you mostly it's buy and hold. Have
Yeah.
you also done like other exit strategies like flips here and there just to kind of get some quick cash flow to use that towards, another down payment or things like that?
So I've not done flips, but I have done a refinance, like just a HELOC. So
Hmm.
that's kind of been something that I just did on my primary duplexes. I just pulled out a HELOC and pulled out all the equity I had. So not
Hmm.
necessarily a flip, but I did like renovate a little bit and then refinance, got the cash, and I'll probably use that on my next property.
Sounds like you did a little bit of like Burr.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Coolio. So would you say like for other people who are working full time and have these W-2s, it is like buying holds and rentals, like the would that be like the best strategy for someone who is working full time?
I'd say that or being like a private money investor too, because you can invest in real estate with somebody else, but not have to do any of the work. And I think for somebody that maybe really enjoys their W 2 or just doesn't have a lot of time to actually analyze the deals or manage the properties, just being an investor for someone else could be really helpful as well, just to get started.
I never really thought about it like that. And
Yeah.
but wouldn't you say that that would kind of bring you back to like having a lot of money at your disposal?
So that would be like if you're, yeah, W-2, you have a lot of money to invest, but you don't really have the time to manage or really the desire to. Like I know people that
Mhm.
really don't want to be a landlord necessarily. So they just will invest with other people who do like managing and they'll just get return every month, just pure cash flow.
That makes a lot of sense. And what
Yeah.
about the process do you enjoy the most? Like from maybe not I'm assuming not the paperwork for sure, but
Right. No,
but
no,
what do you enjoy the
no.
most about just real estate investing?
So real estate investing, the most for me that I have really come to enjoy is I actually really enjoy the customer service aspect of it. I love having a relationship with the tenants and being able to provide like a nice place for them to live. Like I love seeing people whenever they like see our renovated units and they get all excited and they're like, oh, like this is going to be so awesome, because like we work so hard on making them look nice and providing a great place for people to live. So I love seeing whenever people are just super excited to live there. It makes me happy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Awesome. It really
Yeah.
does sound like Anna that you just are very dedicated to helping others, and we just need people like that in general, which is again why I really wanted to have you on the show, because your content speaks to people. It helps people, and it doesn't really seem like you're like you're not really trying to sell anything. You just kind of giving people information based off of your experiences and the things that you're going through. So that's amazing,
Yeah.
and keep doing what you're doing. um
Thank
what
you.
little things in the beginning kind of made learning, because you said you were spending a lot of time learning and doing research and diving into books, diving into videos, what little things kind of helped you make that learning process a little less overwhelming, especially working 12-hour shifts and being in the reserves and doing other things like making time to go to the gym?
Yeah. I think it was instead of because I'm like all over the place when it comes to like learning about stuff. I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like the shiny object syndrome is definitely like a problem of mine. So I just had to focus on one thing. Like I was like, I love the idea of Airbnb. I love the idea of short-term rentals, but like for me, I was like, I need to focus on buy and hold long-term tenants, and that's all I did at the very beginning. Like that is all I focused on, and that's all I educated myself on, because I was like, I know if I get into all these things like, oh, looking at storage units and laundromats and things like that, I'm just going to learn nothing. So I really focused on just long-term buy and hold, and then I went from there. And I think that's kind of a good thing too, depending on whatever your interest is. If you're interested in storage units, then that's all that you should be researching. That's all that you should be analyzing. Or yeah, that's the majority of what you should be doing. I think just having like that tunnel vision is what's really going to help you get to the first step.
And I love that word focus, and that's what I'm going to hone in
Yeah.
really quick too, Hannah, because I just posted a reel not too long ago about like managing your focus and instead of managing time. And for you, it sounds like you really just decided to manage your focus and to focus on one thing at a time, kind of like that 80-20 rule, right? Like spend 80% of your time on the top 20%, right? You might be interested in 5 things. Okay, what's the most interesting thing that you want to learn? And for you, it was long-term rentals, and putting your focus into that is what helps you kind of learn uninterrupted as well. And when you do multitask, what mindset kind of helped you be able to multitask effectively? Like, do you use to-do lists? Do you like put things on the calendar and do time blocks? Like, what things have helped you multitask in an effective and productive way?
So it's like a mental like list for me, but every day I wake up and just be like, what do I want to accomplish today? Like, so, for reels for Instagram, for example, I'm like, one day out of the week, I just film a bunch in a row. And like, that's all I do for like 2 hours. I just take 2 hours of my time and just focus on like social media content. And that's all I do for 2 hours. And then, if I am, renovating an apartment, like that's the majority of what I'm going to do. Like, I know on my days off, I plan in advance, like I'm going to be at this apartment, I'm going to be fixing it up. I think, just waking up every day and being like, this is what I'm going to do today. That's what helps me stay focused. It's just like a mental list I check off.
Damn. How long have you been batching content?
So I started the account last like fall, just, I think kind of maybe in the spring is whenever I started doing that. In the winter. Cause I was like, this takes too long.
Yeah.
I was like, this is taking way too long. So I just, focus on like one day a week. I just try and focus on like content and like, what am I learning about? What would I like to share with other people? What's funny? What do I think is funny? Like, what can I add value to? So that's kind of what I do with that.
Hannah, I just started batching content for the reels. Like I batch content
Okay,
for the podcasts and stuff like that, but for the reels,
yeah.
I just started last week, and I'm just like,
okay,
where has this been my whole life? Like, I'll take every Sunday and I'll record like 10 to 15 videos.
yeah.
It's like now I'm able to post every single day. It's
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah, exactly. Well, and it's like, and I do it on times when I'm feeling more creative, because like some days I would wake up and be like, I don't feel like filming my stuff today. You know what I mean? So it's like, it's helpful. Like on days that I'm feeling creative, I'm feeling, happy, funny, whatever. I'm like, I'm going to do it all today and just get it all done. And then I'll have a bunch to choose from the rest of the week.
Now, are you like planning your topics in advance, like kind of like writing down a little checklist to like, okay, I want to record this video, or you kind of like using that 2 hours to like plan and record?
Yeah, like the 2 hours to plan and record. If I'm just scrolling during the week and see something I like, I'll save it and then like refer back to it. But I really try not to spend a whole lot of time like focus on it.
That makes a lot of sense. Well, I'm glad to hear that you are batching. I just started.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Last
You're
week,
doing it.
and
It'll
it's
change
been
your
helpful.
life.
It changed my life. Like I'm able to now just focus and free up some more time. Because before I was just like, oh man, I've gone 3 days without posting. I got to find something to post about, and now I got to spend time creating this one, and it's just like a whole nother day. I'm back in the same situation.
Yeah, it takes all the stress out of it. It's like, oh, this is so much easier
all
now.
the stress and all the guesswork.
Yeah.
So Hannah, as we switching gears a little bit, we moving into our last segment of the show, and I gotta say, so far I've enjoyed this conversation. I'm super appreciative of you tapping in with us this evening and taking time out of your day, and hopefully we didn't cut into your gym time.
No, not at all.
Awesome. So this segment is called Rapid Fire, and I like to use this before we transition into the closing questions. And I got 5 random questions brought to you by Poddex, our guys over at Poddex. And these have nothing to do with anything we were just talking about for the last hour or so, right? So they're random. The best advice I can give you is, be brief, be brilliant, but most importantly, have fun.
Okay.
Awesome.
I'll try.
So the first one is, if you got stuck in an elevator and were forced to listen to only one song, what song would you pick?
Oh, Meet Me at Our Spot. That's my favorite one right now.
Meet Me at Our Spot. Who's that by?
Oh, I can't even remember. It's like a new one. I'd have to go look.
Is it like a TikTok song?
Yeah, that's where I heard it.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I know what you're talking about now. All right, number 2. What's the cheesiest movie moment or line you can think of off the top of your head?
Oh, the cheesiest. Oh my gosh. Oh, this is terrible. This is on TikTok too. This shows how much time. It's like choose me. What's that one? Who says that?
It's
It's
like
just like
choose me.
choose me. Yeah, yeah.
I got to get some context out of this. So like, what's the
I know
context?
how it. Man, I don't even know. It's like choose me. I think it's from Grey's Anatomy. Honestly, I'm gonna get.
Oh,
This is
I,
ridiculous.
when you
I
say it like
swear
that,
it's.
I feel like I can see Meredith saying something like that. Like, I want you
I'm
to
pretty
choose
sure it's
me.
on.
Like,
Yeah, like choose me. I can't remember anything else she says. That's just what came to mind. I'm like, I know I just heard that. Like people be saying that all the time.
all right, here we go. Number 3. I like this one. What's something that people think makes them look cool, but actually makes them look ridiculous?
Uh, Pajama pants at the gym.
I would agree with that. I am a firm like this is like one of my like this grinds my gears, and I don't like to let things bother me, but whenever I see people like just kind of like walk out the house in pajamas, it kind of like
Yeah,
bothers. It's like why?
yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's
And I don't want to
like
gym
why?
shame anybody. I don't want to gym shame anybody. Like if you're there, that's a great thing. But man, the pajama pants just that bothers me. I don't
Yeah,
know what it
yeah.
is.
Yeah. Definitely invest in some sweat shorts or something
Right,
else.
right.
You can be
That's
comfy,
hilarious.
like you can be. Most gym clothes are
Yeah,
comfortable anyway. So
exactly. That's what I wear to bed. I mean, come on.
awesome. Number 4 is if you were reincarnated as a famous landmark or a person, who or which would it be?
A famous landmark.
I don't
Uh,
really get why they asked that question. Like landmark, who wants to be
yeah,
reincarnated
like
as a landmark?
yeah, like a state park or like is that what it's saying? Like
Yeah,
I
let's
don't
let's go with
know.
a person or an animal. If you could be
A person.
reincarnated as a person or an animal.
I love Audrey Hepburn. I love Audrey Hepburn. I feel like she's like just the epitome of class.
Okay, so you would be reincarnated as Audrey.
Yeah, yeah.
There we have it. There we have it. And the last one is if you could look through one person's email without them knowing, whose email would you look through?
Oh, Elon Musk for sure.
That's a good one. That's a good one. You got to know what he's
For
talking
sure.
about. Did you
Yeah,
hear
yeah,
about
I'm
that
curious.
latest like that addition to the Tesla cars of like the robo taxi?
No.
So he's trying to start this thing. I'm not. It made it seem like he announced it like it's happening. But if you own a
Oh.
Tesla, apparently, like while your Tesla is parked, you can activate robo taxi, and your car can go pick up people on like pretty much like self-driving Uber, and you can
Oh
earn
my
money
gosh.
using your Tesla like while it's parked. So I'll be at
Oh,
work if I had a Tesla, and then my Tesla's out there
it
making
could just be out
trips,
making you money.
just making trips while I'm earning already.
I
I'm
need to get a
already earning
Tesla.
active
It's my
income.
next business plan. Yeah, I need a Tesla now. That's awesome.
Definitely thinking about getting one. He changed the game with that one. So,
He
well,
did.
that's our rapid fire. I appreciate you for being brief, being brilliant, having some fun with me. And
Yeah.
as we close out today's show, Hannah, I got one question, or I got two more questions for you, really. But
Okay.
this next
Yeah.
one is for you to give us a red pill versus blue pill scenario. And while you think of what that scenario is going to be, I'm going to put this up on our Facebook mastermind so our millionaires who are tapped in with us in that community can vote on which pill they would take out of the choices that you give us, and we'll see what people think.
Do you want this to be like related to real estate or?
It could be any red pill, blue pill scenario you come up with.
Oh geez. So like, what's an example?
All right, so an example of one would be, so one of my guests had a really like he sold the hell out of the blue pill to where like the blue pill was like live forever and the red pill was like die tomorrow. That's an example of
Oh
a bad
God.
one. That's an
Okay.
example of a
Okay.
bad one.
Okay.
A good one could be like like red pill is you can fast forward 10 years and have $50 million, and the blue pill is like go back 15 years and have all of your knowledge.
Okay. Okay. All right. I think I've got an idea then.
All right, let's hear it.
Okay, so the red pill is you work your W-2 till you're 65, but you make an incredible income and you have all the toys you want, all the cars, houses, whatever you want. But you're working that 9 to 5 till you're 65. Blue pill is going to be you're an entrepreneur. You work your own time, but you get minimum wage basically the rest of your life. Or until you're 65 at least. You're making minimum wage. And then when you're 65, then you're making millions. But you got to wait till you're 65 as an entrepreneur making your own time, your own business.
That's a good one. I can't wait to ask this one. Millionaires, you just heard this one here. If you're watching this on YouTube, if you're listening to this on Apple, Anchor, Spotify, wherever you are listening to this podcast, if you really want to engage with us, make sure you tap in with us on the Facebook Mastermind. That's the $1 Million Mastermind on Facebook. You can answer that poll, go look for that poll and vote. Or you can also go to it on Spotify, right? If you have Spotify and you listen to us on Spotify, you'll be able to vote that on that poll as well. But I would really love to hear which one you're taking. So red pill
I'm curious.
is you work your W-2 until you're 65, but you have all the toys that you want. And then blue pill is you work the entrepreneur life, right? You have your own time freedom, but you are working minimum wage until you are 65 to get to the millions. That's a good one. That's a good
What would you do? What would you do? Do you have to think about it?
I have to stay in the middle. I don't want to sway because it's going to be hard for me to say one without giving the reason why. But if you guys want to know, I'll vote on the Facebook Mastermind group. But I gotta stay neutral right now. Yeah, I can't sway any heads. But that's a great one. So all right, so Hannah, you are, let's say you got your next rental property, you getting ready to get a new tenant, and this new tenant is a spitting image, a mirror reflection of 18-year-old Hannah. What would be some advice you would give your 18-year-old self?
So some advice that I'd give myself is to start educating yourself early, to start educating yourself, even if you don't have the money or the time right now, just to start learning about it, and get involved if it's something that interests you. If making your own money, being your own boss, like that sort of thing, retiring early, if that's even interesting, like just start now, start learning, and all the experiences that you have up until you first start investing are going to be beneficial, and they're going to, play a part in who you are as a person. So
that's great. That's great advice. Education is always key. I'm a firm believer of being a master student, a student always, a forever learner. It's always something that you can learn from someone. I've learned a lot from you today, and I'm sure our millionaires are going to be learning a lot from you as well. As they tap in. So now, Hannah, I want to give you the space to, plug yourself in. Tell us about any projects you have coming up, any community that you're in and you want to connect with people on. Just now's the space to share, tell us a little bit more, especially where we can find you.
Yeah, so I'm most reachable on Instagram at That Scrappy Investor. That's where I do pretty much all of my social media stuff. You can hit me up on there. Give me a follow. I'll follow you back. Just let me know who you are and what you do. I'd love to connect with you on there for sure.
Awesome. And it's been a pleasure to have you on the show, Hannah. And I can't wait to have our millionaires just kind of, trickling in and connecting with you and, being a part of a community and engaging with you further outside of this podcast. And of course, as always, to our millionaires, I got to say, I'm super thankful to have you all a part of the show as well, because week in, week out, you guys show up, you show out, you engage with me, you tell me what you want to hear more about. You tell me what you didn't really enjoy, how I can improve, which is why we even ended up with YouTube now on the platform. So I just am super thankful to have you all a part of the show. And thank you in advance for becoming the change agents that you're bound to become, especially if you apply the principles that you heard today. And again, if today's episode really spoke to you and it really resonated with you, make sure you go give Hannah, aka That Scrappy Investor, a follow and connect with her, right? Community. We talked about how important community is, how important it is to just be with like-minded individuals, whether you're looking for accountability, you're looking for a mentor, a coach, you got to ask. Closed mouths don't get fed. And I'm sure you can relate to that, right, Hannah?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for taking time out of your evening. And again, I'm your guy, Kai Speaks. You just heard it from Hannah, aka that scrappy investor, on investing in real estate while working your W-2. Remember to keep focused, build momentum, and drive results so you can live abundantly. Peace.